Simon,
Hey Charles, how's it going?
good you?
It's going well. Thanks for
Mexico
asking.
City.
Yeah. How about
Nice.
you?
Good on my side. Do you know a little town called Huitzilac?
Where?
Huitzilac.
Where is it?
It's like 15 minutes north of Cuernavaca and 45 minutes from CDMX.
I have never heard of it. How is it?
It's pretty cool. It's in the mountains. It's cold and yeah, it's a small town. Like most bikers, people that have these speed bikes, they go
Hmm.
to Huitzilac on the weekend and they meet up there, and they've been doing that since like 60 years. So I mean, if you have friends with bike, well, they might come to Huitzilac every Saturday or Sunday.
How did you end up finding it?
So I have a Spartan race like next weekend, which is
Okay.
supposed to be in Ajusco. You probably know
Hmm.
Ajusco,
Hmm.
and Huitzilac is like one of the nearest place I found on Airbnb, and with one of the nicest Airbnb basically that I found for that race. And wasn't supposed to do that race. I was supposed to do the Guadalajara one, which was an ultra, but it was canceled, so I had to come here. And yeah, here I am today.
Nice. Well, good luck on the race. Are you ready?
Thanks. Oh yeah, I'm always ready, training or not. Like especially for this one, it's the beast one, so it's not the ultra. It's halfway. It's like 21 kilometers in the mountain and 30 obstacles, while the one I was supposed to do was 50 kilometers in the mountain and like 50 obstacles. So that one I might have struggled a little bit, and I mean that's why I kind of do them. It's to feel pain and to overcome it. But yeah, this one should be easy, although I will have these struggling moments, which is always interesting.
How long have you been in the area? I I'm not sure if you're already used to the altitude and everything.
Oh yeah, it's like well, first I've been in Mexico for the past 4 years. My wife is from Oaxaca, so
Okay.
I've always been kind of in the mountains, except when we're in on the East Coast, Cozumel and all those places, Riviera Maya. I spend most of my time in Oaxaca, Puebla, Guadalajara, all places with high altitude, even Mexico City. Just
Hmm.
that training in Mexico City is a bit bad because of the air. I once
Hmm.
got kind of sick because of the pollution and all of that. Do you do any endurance stuff yourself or?
So a little bit, not as much anymore. I used to do it a lot when I was living in California. And then
Yeah,
I
I
moved
saw
to
that.
Mexico and I wanted to, continue doing that. And yeah, the first few times wasn't very pretty. The altitude, the training, everything just changes, and especially with the air quality, as you said,
Yeah.
it feels
Well,
entirely.
I mean, 4 years ago, I'm originally from Montreal, and basically, I was kind of tired of my local environment with friends and all of that. I already started my entrepreneurial journey back then, but every now and then I found myself again, like with friends, and who drinks the most competition and who gets fucked up the most. So I was kind of tired from that, and I just decided, let's book a plane ticket to a random place in Mexico. Let's book an Airbnb, and that place ended up being Oaxaca, which I knew nothing about, um, and was kind of like a very good pick because Oaxaca is kind of epic in so many ways. So here I was in Oaxaca with friends, like workation, digital nomad lifestyle. He kind of gave up on it, and I picked up my wife on the way there on Tinder, and yeah, never looked back. We started traveling the world, but now COVID came and kind of chilled Mexico. It's just a pretty nice place to be in during the pandemic, as like, it's kind of freer slash far west type of law system here, which I kind of enjoy in many ways as a founder. But yeah, that's what brought me to here. What about you with San Francisco? Why did you left the Bay Area and came back to Mexico?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Mexico. Then after graduating high school, I went to study college near Boston, a small liberal arts school called Brandeis.
Hmm.
I actually went up to Montreal a few times. Really
Nice.
beautiful city.
Yeah.
And yeah, after graduating, I was working as a head of innovation at a large Mexican logistics company.
Okay.
And through there and the family office that I helped start with the founders of the company, they invested in a company in the Bay Area. So I was looking at some interesting entrepreneurial opportunities within the logistics finance side of things. And at the time where I was working on what the product would be, on what we would do, I got the offer to work as a consultant for one of the startups that we invested in.
Okay.
And so I figured, if I'm actually serious about doing my entrepreneurial journey, I knew nothing about anything at the time.
Hmm.
I decided to move to Silicon Valley, do the whole startup world thing for a while.
Yeah.
So I lived there for a few years. The startup I founded, I wasn't able to get off the ground because of some immigration issue. Consultant, so essentially let that company go. Worked as a consultant there for a while. Tried to
Hmm.
find a few jobs, but it was just at the same time getting a work visa had become increasingly more difficult. So through there, I ended up reconnecting um, with a corporate group that I had been helping out a lot. And the idea of a venture studio that I had pitched them a few years prior, they told me, hey, Simon, we're actually hiring a team to make the venture studio happening, and we would want you to be a part of it. So I joined the team. I was one of two people, and then eventually the other person quit, and I stayed there alone.
Hmm.
So I was working with that remotely in the Bay Area, and after a while, the pandemic hit, and I said, it's actually probably best for me to head back to Mexico. So I
Okay.
came back to Mexico, and I was working on a few projects, helping advise a few companies within the portfolio find out new business opportunities. And one of the opportunities that we found was actually compliance.
Okay.
So I went from running the studio to taking a step back to actually come and build the project that I'm working on now. And now, we're just getting ready to raise our pre-seed round and going to market, actually putting into work a lot of the things that we've been, building for the past year or so. So yeah.
Complawiance. Is it compliance or complawiance? And why
Yeah,
the W?
so it's called compliant, like it's pronounced compliance. The only thing I can say with that is never let a lawyer do your branding. So we partnered up with a lawyer, and I was doing a lot of market research on this project, and I spoke to a corporate lawyer. I told hey, we're thinking about this idea. What do you think? And he told me, hold on, I have to go get something. So he steps out of the room. He comes back 5 minutes later with a giant stack of books, puts them down on the table, and says, Simon, I've been working on this idea for 5 years and I have no idea on how to actually execute it.
Okay.
He says, I've actually called this project Compliance, LAW, because it's legal compliance.
Ah,
So,
compliance.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
compliance. Yeah. Again, never let a lawyer do your branding. So, instead of dedicating way too much time on the name or anything, we figured, let's actually build out the product.
Yeah.
Let's get it to market. Let's do a closed beta. And once we're ready to actually launch, we'll rebrand and do everything else
Yeah,
from
yeah.
there.
Which is
So
good mentality. It's like better mentality. It's not too bad. But like getting past that, it's like compliance in Mexico, or you targeting full Latam.
so right now we're starting off in Mexico. This is our
Okay.
core market, is where we have our connections, is where we're getting our first customers.
Okay.
However, the way that we've built our platform is that it's agnostic to whatever country you're in.
Okay.
So even though right now we're not actively looking for customers outside of the country, we could
Hmm.
very easily integrate it within all of Latam. So
Okay.
our goal is to prove that it can work here, see what impact it can actually have on operations, see the reception of customers here, work with them very closely, and then once we're ready for that, start expanding into corporate groups. A lot
Yeah.
of the companies that we're starting to reach out to have operations, not only in Mexico but in different parts of Latam.
Okay.
Others we're starting to think about working with the Mexican subsidiary of maybe an American company. So in those cases, expansion to the rest of their operations would be fairly easy. But
Yeah.
again, that would be dependent on the impact that we can have on their Mexican operations first.
Yeah, this is kind of material for the podcast. Well, first, I mean, we could save that for the pod, but like, isn't
Mhm.
like Mexico really far west market? Like I was talking, with accountants and tax lawyer, and was like, Mexico, I mean, I could declare taxes here because I'm most of the time here. And Mexico is fucking far west, so nobody would ever pretty much kind of go at me because it's, I mean, how many percent of Mexican enterprises report taxes? Probably like 30% or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
that's the first thing. And the second thing I'll say is compliance is like one of the best niche in terms of if you want to make money. It's one of the most profitable as it's boring and nobody wants to hit, but it's a humongous market. And just for the reason that I told you, right? Like, I mean, government isn't going away anytime soon and say like only 30% report taxes. I mean, well, I mean, the government will eventually go away. I mean, you're in crypto, so you'll understand, these philosophies with like the sovereign individual and all of that. Let's say in 50 years, government probably won't be there. And the second thing is, will the government get more resources to go after these guys? I'm not sure, especially in Mexico. Anyway, I just blasted a bunch of information questions in a messy way, but what do you
No.
think here?
So I'll talk about that for a second, and then afterwards, I'd be more curious also to hear more about like what you're doing, what you're looking
Yeah,
to do, and all that.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you have pretty much the right perspective. Over 60% of the income of the country is part of the informal economy. And so before compliance, I was working at a startup that was doing incorporation service similar to Stripe Atlas, but in Mexico. And
okay,
within 24 hours, we would incorporate companies.
okay,
And the number one reason why people would not want to incorporate their company, even though you get the legal protection, you get a lot of benefits, you get like structurally speaking, if you actually want to own a business, the best way to do it is to work within the formal economy.
yeah.
And the
And I
number
don't
one
think
reason
people sue
why
much in Mexico. Also, that's another factor. Like I believe most Mexican people, it's kind of a lawless country if you want, far west. Like I don't, people don't really believe in suing other than like top elite Mexican people.
you'd be surprised. I mean, especially in terms of like labor relations, there's a lot of
Okay,
legal activity that happens there.
okay,
In general, yeah, the process to sue someone is a lot more complicated here than it is in the US.
okay,
But the number one reason why people would give that they're afraid to be a part of the formal economy has to do with regulation and compliance. They
okay,
didn't want or were afraid of complying or were being afraid of being tracked by the government authorities because they know that even though a lot of people don't get tracked, you might get away with not declaring any taxes for a very extended period of time. If they do decide to do something against you, they will definitely be able to do so
okay.
because the regulation in Mexico is so complicated. So complicated, there's little visibility. In fact, it's a well-known fact that you cannot by law comply with everything.
Okay.
Like if you comply with everything, you're in complying with something else. So that's the number one reason why people don't want to participate in the formal economy. And for us, it also becomes our opportunity.
Yep.
Also a lot of startups talk about doing good or doing well for others. The way we see it, if we can help promote and facilitate the legal boundaries that people have to operating a business, then we can actually help create more businesses or even help businesses scale. And that's actually the truth. A lot of people don't have business contracts because they can't afford a lawyer. They can't
Correct.
declare their taxes because they can't afford an accountant. And if they do,
Correct.
they'll usually, they'll ask their cousin for a favor or they'll ask
Yep.
someone else.
Yep.
And so we see that as a barrier for small businesses and even for larger companies that becomes a very, very large expense.
Okay.
You'll have teams of dozens of lawyers working with dozens of law firms that represent millions of pesos or even millions of dollars a year in expenses that could very easily be afforded because of the way that legal operations are managed. So,
Okay.
like you said, it's a very niche opportunity. It's something
But
that not
very,
very
very
many.
interesting. Like
Yeah.
just hearing you talk, I'd probably use your service for myself and my wife. Like she's an entrepreneur, and I mean, every time we talk about like incorporating her to have her Stripe account, I mean, it's total turn off, you know. I hate Stripe, by the way. They banned me. Well, they don't ban me, but I they suspended my account. I have a business in Hong Kong, um, another that we're registering in US, and one in Canada, obviously, that I'm trying to shut down for tax purposes. You know, I'm never in Canada. Well, almost never. But that's super interesting. And yes, it's a big market. Lots of money to be made there, and super fascinating. Just tell you about the podcast because I have another meeting
Yeah,
coming on soon. I think it'd be very interesting to talk. Basically, you know, like next weekend, I don't want to stress myself. You know, I have the Spartan ranks. I'll probably be at some kind of a mess afterwards, especially if I try to run to kind of, you know, have good positions. I think I have an advantage in obstacle course race. You know, Ironman, I didn't do like the best time, but that time, you know, it's 21 kilometer. I'll go fucking all out, man, and I won't go slow. You know, so I'm trying to
mhm.
win something here. Um, but I'll probably get wrecked by, you know, Mexican runners that have been trained in these mountains for quite a while in hills. But basically, that would take us to kind of the 18th of December, which is a Saturday. I'd go up in Mexico.
Yeah,
Um, I have like three other entrepreneurs that I'd be talking that day. My wife would film. It's a podcast. It's theoretically the Founder Wisdom podcast that I have. I interview founders, ask them a bunch of questions. Um, I mean, my thesis, you know, like first I want to develop my network in Mexico because I'm pretty poised to spend a good part of my time here and other places in the world, SF probably, and you know these kinds of places. And probably, you know, like we might do it in Spanish, the podcast. But anyway, basically we'd meet in this place. I think it's called Hacienda. Let me see here. Hacienda de los Morales. ¿Conoces
mhm.
este lugar?
Muy bonito. It's a
Sí,
very nice place.
yeah. And we meet there. We'd have, you know, the interview. My wife would film, discuss about these topics, and yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think we'd have like a nice conversation, like at least 30 minutes an hour. Um, and yeah, the time would be like 2 p.m. if that's good for you.
Okay, so I actually leave Mexico on the 17th, and I won't be back until the
Okay.
9th. So
Okay.
I don't know if we can schedule it once the next like during early next year. And it sounds
I'll
really
be in
interesting.
Oaxaca though. The
Mhm.
after that, I'm going to a 10-day silent retreat in Mazunte, and basically, yeah, it's like I won't be back in CDMX. The alternative, I mean, we could do it in online. You know, it's not a problem.
Yeah. Okay, that works. Yeah, I'd be happy to do it online early next year. Right now, we're doing a lot of closing, so I can't promise 100% of my attention
Yeah,
during the next 2 weeks. But if we can do it early next year, that's fine by me. Also, if you could share with me some episodes of the podcast, just
yeah,
so I can get a sense of more or less what you're doing, what kind of questions you ask, the dynamic you have with
yeah,
the different people that participate, and also, be able to become better prepared. And I think we
yeah.
can organize it through email and just coordinate through there since it's a few weeks away still.
Yeah, I sent you the link. I can send you an invitation. Let's say for the 14th of January around 3 p.m. EST. It should be 2 p.m. Mexico City time. And I mean, you could always rebook something from there if that's good with you.
I'm sorry.
I said an invite for the 14th of Jan at 2 p.m. Mexico time. I could send you an invite from there, and you can reschedule it from your end if there's something that comes up.
Perfect. Yeah, that should work.
All right. Well,
Perfect. Yeah,
cool,
and
man. And I'll
if you could
yeah,
send me as much information as possible, I would really appreciate it. And also, if you have some questions that you have prepared or something along those lines, so I can,
yeah,
also come a little bit more prepared and maybe have a few ideas of what to talk about or where to talk. And if you have something that you would want me to help you out on, if you have some questions on the industry or something in order for you to, be better acquainted with what we're
Yeah.
doing or what you would want to ask, then as well. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
it's your podcast and I'm, happy to participate.
Yeah. I sent you the link in the Zoom convo. Did you get?
Mm,
Can have a
Perfect.
look at that. And
All right, cool.
I mean, I'm looking for probably, yeah, someone that's acquainted with the Mexican system for many reasons. Um, Probably, Mexican lawyer, Mexican accountant, and register my wife's business, but possibly one of my own business, personal taxes as well. Like getting my visa and even one day my citizenship. Then, like for wedding, also acquiring real estate. So I have a lot of needs when it comes to Mexico since I spend most of my days here. And if you
Hmm.
can help with that, yeah, that'd be cool. I'm certainly willing
Yeah.
to invest in that.
Yeah, happy to help. I see here, I can't find the actual episodes of the podcast. I see the send application call to action. Is it
Uh,
on the
fo-
YouTube page?
Founder Wisdom Podcast. So if you go in that
Yeah,
link, you should see some videos in there. You just check, or if not, I need to add them. But I thought there'd be a couple of episodes in there.
sure. Do you see my screen?
Mm,
It might just be that it hasn't loaded yet.
Um,
So we have everything more on the
yeah,
pod.
there's three that should load. The page load is so slow. If you go, and by the way, we're fixing that. Like I have a new VP marketing that I onboarded, but there's three
Here we
videos, and
go.
I mean, yeah, there's a bunch.
Anyone that you would recommend in particular?
To listen to.
Yeah.
Check here. So good. Da, da, da. So I was inside next Uber. Next Uber is like with an Argentinian guy, was kind of good. Um, I mean, like it's the beginning of the podcast. So I can't say like I had epic episodes. I have other podcasts uh, with everything SDR, basically sales related. I've had plenty of good ones there. Um, but yeah, what needs to be understood here, basically the questions that I ask, they're pretty spontaneous, which makes the interviews cool as well. So you don't necessarily need to prepare. um, if I'd listen to my own podcast, yes, there's values inside them, although I'm kind of beginning at that. But I'd listen to them like speed times too, personally, and yeah, you get like some insights here and there, but nothing like along the lines of, I don't know, Naval Ravikant podcast, for sure. But I'll get there. Give me like 5-10 years.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, more than happy to help out. I'll check out um the podcast that you have there.
Yeah.
Yeah, any questions that you have, any questions that I have, we'll just be bouncing them back and forth via email.
All right, man. So we'll keep in touch. Hope you have a nice day, and hopefully we can meet anytime I'm around CDMX.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know when you're here. I mean, again, I leave on the 17th, but if you're here before then, you know, always happy to meet out for a little bit.
All right, man. We'll keep
All right.
touch, bud. Peace
All
out.
right. Take care.